Hello and welcome to the Sonic Cinema podcast. My name is Brian Scuttle and thank you for joining us at www.sonic-cinema.com. This podcast, I'm going to be discussing a short film, The House on Oak Street, with a friend of mine who actually suggested it for me, Marv Dickey. And it's a really fun discussion. We talk about the film, we talk about what we like and what we didn't like about the film, and we discuss film criticism in general. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much for joining us to the Sonic Cinema podcast. I'm pleased to bring a friend and fellow geek on to discuss a short film that he actually suggested to me called The House on Oak Street, and they want to talk about it today, and we're probably going to discuss that as well as just sort of things about the horror genre in general. So please welcome Marv Dickey to the podcast. Good to see you. Good to hear it from you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm the horror geek here. I love horror, so this will fit right in for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked plenty over Facebook over the years, and it's like I'm somebody who my horror fandom is definitely not rival of yours, but it is definitely I've definitely come to appreciate the genre a lot more over the past 10 to 15 years than I did, and I always enjoy watching a good horror movie and that brings something to the genre, or at least brings a sense of atmosphere. And that's one of the things that I really liked about the short film that you brought to my attention, The House on Oak Street. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. And it was definitely an entertaining short film to watch. It's only 18 minutes. It is linked onto the review on Sonic Cinema. Anybody listening wants to check it out, and as well as my thoughts for the movie, and we'll go ahead and get started talking about that before we talk about some things in general. So I really enjoyed the movie. I thought it had a really good sense of atmosphere. I thought it had a really good sense of style and tone, which I think is important for horror movies nowadays, and is something that I really admire about a lot of horror films. And let's go ahead and get started on what your thoughts on the film are, sort of where you're coming from the film.
Okay, well, it was first brought to my attention due to a friend on Facebook who is friends with I believe it was the parents of the chubby child, the one in the jester costume in the film. And everybody was praising how great of a job they did, how great of a short film it was. And I was all like, I'm always up for some horror, and I love horror short films, and I love all kinds of films. There's nothing I won't watch unless it's obviously garbage, and I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. And every day is precious, Brian. Every day is precious. And but yeah, I'll watch anything, and I really enjoy horror shorts because it's no budget filmmaking for the most part, and I support artists. My girlfriend's an artist. I absolutely support artists, and sometimes you can make magic out of nothing, and I support that whole community. And I myself have made a couple short films, and I can see. I've seen both sides of it, the critic view and the making of side of it, as you have too.
Yeah.
You've made a couple of, and so I thought I'd give it a watch, and I don't know if it was them building it up, because everybody, the grandmothers, the aunts, the uncles, the parents commenting about how great a job they did. They're a little bit biased. Let's be honest, they're biased, and I thought it was cool because it was filmed in one town over from where I grew up. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Buffalo, Michigan. This was filmed in Three Oaks, Michigan. aka River Valley, which is the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And the house that they filmed in it's actually right across the street from the high school. So they did a really good job hiding that it was kind of an old house in the woods.
Yeah.
Kind of atmosphere. And that's what I really enjoyed about one of the things I enjoyed about the film was it was Halloween appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
The setting, the scenery, the leaves. Like we started off with just with leaves blowing, and I really like that. I've seen quite a few short films where it's supposed to be Halloween time, but it's obviously springtime or even maybe summer. And I'm a little bit harsh when it comes to that because you know me. Mm-hmm. You've seen for many Halloween starting at the beginning of October until I'm all sad and depressed that first week of November. I live for Halloween. I absolutely do. And when you get it wrong, I'm gonna hit you hard with some criticism. Mm-hmm. But they did good. They definitely built that atmosphere. So a little side note, a little fun fact about Three Oaks, Michigan. A couple movies that they're filmed there. I believe one was called Suspended Animation. I'm getting tripping over my tongue. I'm not 100% positive it was filmed there, but I was told it was. I don't have any proof, but I do know that the classic that airs every year on Fox Family, ABC Family, what's it called now? Freeform? I think it's called Freeform now. It's just the same stuff, but they play it constantly. Prancer, the 1989 film Prancer, is what I'm getting to. That was filmed in Three Oaks.
Okay.
If you want to see downtown Three Oaks, it hasn't changed much since the movie. It's kind of a town that time forgot. When Prancer, the plastic Prancer falls in the middle of the street at the beginning of the movie Prancer, you can see a good shot of downtown Three Oaks.
Okay.
And there you have it. Still like that today.
All right.
So a little fun fact for your listeners if they're curious. And the house is right across from, like I said, River Valley High School. And if they wanted to check out what the house looks like, I looked it up. My girlfriend and I looked it up on Google Maps about an hour ago. To double check, make sure it is that house that was across the street from the high school.
Yeah.
And get a good look at it from the street and see how different it is, how they framed it right to make it seem like it was the old house of wood.
Yeah. No, that's actually very interesting to know that's right across from a high school because I never would have suspected based solely on the film that anything else was by that house. So no, they did definitely do a very good job of hiding that and really not making that obvious that it's like, oh, this is, we did the best we could as far as like making this isolated, but no, they did do a really good job of, I never would have suspected that without you saying it. I mean, that's one of the things that I was interested about the movie when you suggested it to me because of the fact that it is interesting to hear to know and to learn some of the personal connections to a film if somebody suggests it. I mean, one of the things that it's living in Georgia now. I mean, they film so much in Georgia now. I mean, it's not just big films too. It's a lot of independent films. And we have a tendency at our theater to show a lot of smaller films, and and a lot of them can be films that were done around this place. Like we've got this, it's a faith-based movie, and it's like it's basically everything that comes with. But it was filmed in Woodstock, which is like a few miles up the road from where we are, and so it's like it's a racing movie, and one of the tracks there is Dixie Speedway, which is basically a dirt track, and it's like chances are if you are around from this area, you know what Dixie Speedway is, even if you haven't been there, which I've been there, you know what it is, and so it's like it's exciting for people to find out to have that type of personal connection to a movie. So it's like, so I mean that's one of the things that interested me about this when you suggested it, and it's good to it's it was good. That's one of the reasons I was kind of excited to talk to you about, was because of the fact that it's like the personal details that you might be able to bring to discussing the film.
Yeah, it's an odd sense of pride in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, Prancer. It's meant for, it's a holiday good feeling type movie that doesn't really appeal to me unless it's Christmas time. Then I might feel in the mood to watch some Prancer and check out. Be like, oh, she's going down the hill, and now she's in New Carlisle.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. but you know the places, and it is a weird sense of pride. It's like, that movie may not be that great. It doesn't appeal to me, but hey, it came from near my hometown.
Yeah. No,
it's also like this, like local, almost lore. Like, the town isn't completely, it's famous for something.
Yeah.
Also, as a side note, about the very beginning, do you remember the main character when he decided to go bicycle home, and he comes out of a little convenience store?
Yeah.
I even though I went to New Buffalo High School, I took an auto class that was offered at River Valley High School. So I would ride with my friend, Mark, in his car, back in high school, way back in the 90s, in high school, and we would go to that same convenience store, the little corner store, and buy our Mountain Dews or Pepsis or whatever before class, so we have something to drink during the 3-hour class for auto. So it's kind of fun seeing that in there too.
Yeah.
And then the kid bicycles. He leaves the convenience store and he's magically 5 miles away downtown Toledo. And then he cycles back around because the house is like about a half mile away from that convenience store.
Yeah.
But it's good for the shot. It was a good kid. I thought the shots were cool. It's just trying to piece together his route home is like, this is ridiculous. The physics don't work here, man. Why is he going out there?
Yeah.
So that's just the stuff for people who know the area. I'm sure movies that are filmed in Georgia, or whatever, like Houston, you can be like, look, I know where that's at. But in the following scene, they're like 10 miles away, and then, okay, now they're back near where they were.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've come across stuff like that.
Well, and
many the listeners probably can relate to that too.
Right. No, absolutely. Well, I mean, let's with some of that out of the way, let's discuss the film itself. Like I said, I thought it was really good. I mean, you mentioned that, sort of the grandparents and all were, and everybody, who knew somebody who was in the film was very proud of them, thought they did a great job. And it's like, yeah, obviously they're biased. I mean, overall, I thought the performances were all right. I didn't think there were any particular performances that stood out that were like, oh, that's such a good performance. For me, that film was so much more about the atmosphere and just capturing this sense of unease that you get with a good haunted house story. And I felt like that's first and foremost what this was. And from the way the music is, the cinematography, the way they framed the house, which remind me, as I mentioned in my review, of the Bates house in Psycho. Just the way they set everything up for that sense of unease, that sense of, well, what's going to happen here, and what are these kids going to find when they go into the house?
Right. I agree with you completely with the no performance actually stood out. Well, what really stood out to me was, I hate to go negative right off the bat, and maybe we should sum up the film before we get into it deep. It's basically the 4 kids that go trick or treating at the evil house on the hill, kind of, the town's, the dark house, the basic kid story where they're afraid to go, trick or treat that house, kind of house. Mm-hmm. And they go inside and they discover oddities in the form of a child, and it appears to be an adult called the Master, and whether or not they can escape. And then there's teens that are in it for, but no real reason.
Yeah.
I have to get that out there. The team, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, their parts added nothing to the film other than filler.
Yeah.
They added minutes to the movie.
Well,
the short film. It really, to me, I felt like you take those guys out, take the girl and the boy out, and you still have what you have.
Yeah.
Just a shorter version.
No,
not complaining about the performances. I'm not complaining about that. I'm not complaining about the dialogue. I don't feel like they needed to be in the film at all.
No, that's absolutely true. And it's like, I mean, the only real connection that you can say those characters have is the boyfriend is supposed to be Brand's brother, but
yeah.
The fact of the matter is, it's like, yeah, you're right. Other than that, there's like no reason for them to be in it at all. And other than maybe at the very end when, you know, you see the boyfriend and girlfriend go into the house after they come across the kids' bikes, and then you have you're with the kids who find was the deformed kid's name? I can't remember.
Mort.
Yeah. They're with him, and then you hear screaming, or are they with him at that time? But basically they hear screaming in the distance, and they're not sure, you know, and so that sort of piques their interest, and that's before the master comes up to potentially kill them as well for coming in. But yeah, other than that, there's no reason for those characters to be in. Yeah, it's basically the exact same movie. So
yeah, besides the very beginning where the brother wants to pick up the kid to pick up Brand, and he decides to ride his bike home. That's the only time that their paths cross.
Yeah,
and the only example would be is, you know, spoilers, is the master killed him. Mm-hmm. We saw what the master was capable of.
Yeah.
But that until after the credit, or during the credit scene. You know, it wasn't like we were exposed to that before the children felt in dire need of escape.
Yeah.
So I felt, not to really rag on the actors themselves, but you didn't need to be in the movie.
No, and the thing is, it's like that's a problem from a writing and a storytelling standpoint. It's not anything to take away from anything from the actors. It's just, you know, it was a storytelling. It's an issue with the storytelling, and it's not an issue with the performances at all.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, overall, I felt like I sort of felt like the ending of the movie was a bit anticlimactic. I felt like it built up a lot and then just sort of petered out, and you didn't really get into. It feels like there should be a little bit more, or the ending should have been a little bit different. I mean, you don't necessarily want the master to kill the kids. You want, and it is a short film, so it's like obviously you have a certain amount of constraint of time, but at the same time, you can make a short film. There's a difference between adding another minute or two of action to a short film compared to like a 90-minute film or a 2-hour film. You know, there's a big difference between those two.
Absolutely. And, you know, even it just go further on the final scene. To me, the final scene was a rush. The intensity of it was rushed, which made it feel lackluster and nearly laughable to me. Like the master's chasing the 4 kids that helped Mort escape from chains. Mm-hmm. To kind of hop around in the story. And Mort wants them to get out safely. They don't want the master to Mort doesn't want the master to kill him. And Mort is apparently the star of a sideshow of some sort.
Yeah.
And the master seems to be the one that's like collecting the money. Mm-hmm. And and I feel more. The acting was awful. I would have yelled cut, and I hope this. I really hope that he could have done a better take. But I feel I don't want to kind of jump around, but all those kids look tired.
Yeah,
they really did. They look absolutely tired. And I'm not going to be just negative on this film. I feel like if the listeners are like, this dude just tearing it apart. No, I got a lot of positive things to say about this, but the kids looked absolutely tired, and they were. I asked my buddy who originally posted, his name was Luke. He originally posted the short film, and I asked him. He goes, apparently they were up to like 1, 2 in the morning, doing this, and they only had like a few days to do this.
Yeah.
So I can understand the lack of. You can't do 20 takes, and if you got to do it 20 times, there's something wrong with the scene or the writing or even the acting.
Yeah.
Especially short film, but being up that late, doing the setups and all that, I can understand being tired, but you also got to think about the product you're putting out.
Yeah.
The product's going to last for as long as a copy exists and people are able to watch it versus instead of getting it done.
No, absolutely.
And I feel like absolutely rushed. And speaking of rushed, the dialogue here I am hopping around in the story again. Just go watch it, listeners. Go watch it and then come back and listen. You'll know what I'm talking about. But you could the kids, the first dialogue where we meet the kids, where they do the rock paper scissors and they want to go trick or treating.
Yeah.
That scene, that dialogue is so rushed, they're almost stepping on each other's words.
Mm-hmm.
And it irritated me. It really did. Like I've watched the short film 4 times. I watched it myself, then I shared it with my girlfriend. I watched it again when I was supposed to take notes. I did take notes, then I watched it again and took notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch it. That scene irritates me. I'm like, we need beats here, man. We really need some spacing in between these lines. Just take a deep breath, relax, and just say the words.
Yeah.
But I feel like he only wanted to do like the maximum of like 3 takes.
Mm-hmm.
And these kids being tired is just spitting these words out as fast as possible. And I feel that hurt the film, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that could be just. But I'm sure there's more out there like me that don't like a rushed scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is, it's like, and the fact is, it's like, yeah, that, especially if you're dealing with non-professional actors, which I'm guessing most of those kids are, if not all of them. I mean,
I believe they're.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously going to have an effect on the performance as well. And And so, yeah, I mean, basically getting exhausted after a long day of shooting, which I would be too if I shot until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning under those conditions. And yeah, the fact that you're dealing with non-professional actors, it's going to be a big difference. And it's like you really have to be patient, but also be able to try to get the best performance that you can get out of people. And and especially when you're dealing with people who don't act on professionally, that's definitely going to have an effect.
Right. And it's okay. I understand these kids probably did school plays. They've done, like spring concerts and stuff. So they've had stage time.
Yeah.
This may be the first, all of them maybe, have been in front of a camera. So it might have had a little bit of a nervous effect. You're tired, you're nervous. He only wants maybe the director only wants a few shots for each angle so he can get the coverage done. Mm-hmm. The blonde-haired girl, like she was ready to like lay down and go take a nap. And every scene on her, and I felt sorry for him, but I know they also probably had time. Yeah, they probably had a better time when the camera wasn't rolling than when they did when the camera was rolling.
Yeah,
but that just goes to and I'm sure the people who own the house probably only gave them like that weekend.
Oh yeah,
to do it in.
Yeah,
and so again, it's also if you're here in Michigan, if you start filming in beginning of October, you better be done by mid-October, because late October, it is going to look like a whole new season.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 20, 30 degrees cooler on Halloween than it is on October 1st.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's no budget filming.
Yeah.
You do what you can, what you got, and in the amount of time that you have.
Exactly.
And they did a great job. They did. For what they presented, they did it. It's full of flaws, of course, but it's a good little short film. It's a lot better than some of the ones I've seen, for sure. And it's because of two things. For me, filmmaking or films and movies are an audio-visual experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you agree?
Absolutely.
If you got a good camera but you got bad sound, that's gonna affect the film. You're not gonna get your story across. You're not gonna get your point across. Your morality tale, whatever you're telling, is not gonna come across like something that has great audio and great visual.
Mm-hmm.
This one has a little bit of both. It has good sound. Everything, all the dialogue, most if not all, you could tell was little ADR, additional dialogue recording.
Yeah.
Is post-production audio. They did their dialogue over their film.
Yeah.
Like I thought the music was spot on.
Oh, I love the music. I thought it was really effective, and it went really well with the visuals as far as saying the mood, which I thought was the most important thing that film ultimately did as far as drawing me into the experience. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's.
But I do have a couple. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and that's. I was gonna say, it's like that's sort of why I can look past the fact that the performances are all right, but they're not great. The story kind of peters out. It's like I'm somebody who especially when it comes to horror, especially when it comes to that type of suspense story, it's like I'm more interested in mood and atmosphere and how that is maintained more than I am whether a story makes sense, whether a story, reaches. I mean, the ending does bother me. The fact that it sort of peters out, the fact that it sort of is anticlimactic, that doesn't necessarily help, but it's not a complete hindrance the way it would be for a different movie.
Right.
And because of the fact that the film does such a good job from an atmosphere standpoint, it's like I can overlook a lot of those issues.
Yeah. Getting back to sound, though, there was some sound that was used later in the film that wasn't used in the beginning. And my perfect example is when they first go into the home, they're walking all over it's what appears to be an old floorboard. There was not one single ambient house, like creaks, cracks, groans. There was no ambient sounds. Even their footsteps, like going up the stairs, there was no footsteps. There was no Foley work, so to speak, on this. There was no on the footsteps. But when they would come running back down the stairs, there were footsteps, and that irritated me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a flaw, and I can look over it. But when I watch something and I'm like, something is off.
Yeah.
Something is definitely off about this. I'm like, they're in this old creepy house, but it doesn't sound like anything but like a new carpeted apartment.
Yeah.
Where all sound is muted, nothing, you can't hear anything. Also, with the sound, my last critique on sound would be distance. Mm-hmm. Distance in the audio. If a kid is in the back of the room and he's talking to his friends who are in the foreground of the shot, his voice should not sound like he's standing right next to them.
Yeah.
And that part irritated me because it sounded, even when Mort was on the stairs and the kids were at the door trying to open the locked door, it sounded like they were all standing right there together by the microphone.
Yeah.
And that takes me out of the scene. That takes me out of the film. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's, like I said, if it's just me or because I've dealt with like audio troubles with making short films. I don't know if I've got, I've seen that side, and and the choice to have that, to me, kind of, it just irritates me. I guess you could say I'm picky, and I'll do that with like motion pictures too. Like if something's off, like if I hear someone like it's an ADR, like a voiceover, like it was, you can tell it was added later. Like, oh, that sounds like a good thing. We'll say it when you're facing away from the camera. I'm like, hey, no, the joke doesn't even hold up for me because it's different. No, maybe that's just, and it's kind of funny me talking about death when, Brian, you're more aware than the listeners are that I'm missing an eye and I have no depth perception.
Well, and that's one. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you're talking about, and it actually, that's something I didn't necessarily pick up on, and it's like makes me want to go back and watch it now to see if I pick up on that as well. It's like, I'm sure a lot of that had to do with the fact that it's a low budget film, the fact that the dialogue was ADR'd, so it's like everything basically is recorded as if it's coming straight from a mic. So it's like if you're not necessarily thinking about if you're sort of not necessarily rushing it, but you're giving yourself a specific deadline to get it done at, you're probably not necessarily thinking, okay, I need to mix this to where it's like everybody doesn't sound like they're standing right next to one another, even though they're clearly not on stage, on screen. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with that. But no, I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's like those type of things, and it goes for continuity errors, also visual continuity errors as well. It's like if you have, I mean, a lot of continuity errors, it's like you won't even necessarily, you may notice them, but it's like they won't take you out of the movie. If it takes you out of the movie, it's going to take you out of the movie regardless. If you notice it, especially if it's like something, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Why am I hearing their voice they're in two different places in the shot? Why am I hearing their voice as clearly as I'm hearing this voice? No, that is something that's absolutely going to have an effect on the way you experience that movie. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say, oh, well, it's a low budget film. It's a film that, it was probably done relatively quickly. I mean, even if that's not to say it was half-assed in any way, shape, or form. It's just to say that short films typically are done quickly. And, you may not necessarily think of, oh, wait a minute, I need to mix this in a way that gives these characters the same sense of depth that I'm showing on camera, or I have to do Foley or get sound effects in sound for this type of environment. I need to make sure I do that. And it's like, that makes me want to go back and watch the movie and see if I notice those things. I mean, of course I'm going to, because of the fact that it's been pointed out to me now, but I'm curious if it'll have the same effect on me watching it in that perspective than it doesn't. I think part of the reason I didn't necessarily notice that is because I was so transfixed by the way the music was working, and the way the music really helped propel the movie in a way that good film scores can do.
Right. It's I agree. It's wow, I just lost my train of thought. There we go. I'm derailed. Brian saved me. But anyways, yeah, the sound, it's positive. It's all positive, and this is just things. I'll point out the director, Kyle Mistak, M-I-S-A. I don't know. I couldn't find out if he was a local boy or not, because he's done. He's 24, I believe. 24 years old, if not 25. Yeah. He's done two, apparently stuff I've never heard of, but it's low budget stuff. He's done 2 feature films and like 11 or 12 short films. And the kid is getting better as he goes along. But he also, these are little things that he could, and even the listeners, if they're looking to do short films, take an extra 20 minutes to record yourself walking up some stairs, like do an audio recording of yourself. If the characters in the film are walking upstairs, try to walk at their pace up some stairs. Get a little distance between you and the microphone, and spend 20 minutes doing just a quick recording of that and mix it in.
Yeah.
These are just, everybody can continue and get better and get better. And this kid, he's definitely got a future. Kyle Mithak, I think is how you pronounce it. And I'll point out, besides this film, he released another short film in March called Crazy Carl, which stars Creed Bratton from The Office. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Creed Bratton? And he does a fantastic job. The dialogue has been slowed down. It's been paced. It's in a library. It's in this library. Check it out if you want. I believe it's like 11 minutes long. It's pretty good for what it is, and he's getting better. The filming is better. The dialogue, like he's already leaps and bounds from House on Oak Street, or as I affectionately called it, B&E on Halloween. What are those kids doing just to that home? Don't inflect them. They don't belong in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, B&E could be a great additional title. Anyways, he did well, but he also was working at Creed Bratton. And Creed Bratton, he's a professional.
Yeah.
He's had years and years behind him. So sometimes, and I've worked with even a couple of people who have done acting before, nothing, there's no celebrities or anything, but they were easier to work with, and I let them, pace out the scene. Give me a take, and then you can do a take. So that's how I used to work when I used to direct a bunch of shows and stuff. But and I could see that Creed Bratton's professionalism had a big effect on Kyle Mithak. Mm-hmm. Just in that short film. So I'm sure he's learned. The kid's got a future. He's learning as he goes. But there's, back to House on Oak Street. I enjoyed it. I think it was good. Other than those minor things, that's the end of my negatives. I still got positives coming, Brian.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and one of the okay, and one of the things. Sure. One of the things that I love about short films, one of the reasons that I really started to embrace watching them and reviewing them for Sonic Cinema is the fact that for me, that is like the ultimate learning ground. It's like that's where you're going to learn your craft if you're any type of artist. And it's like the idea of, this is a place where you're experimenting. This is a place where you're learning what goes into the process of making a film and what you can do better, what you've got that's working, what you have that's not working. And so it's like the idea that, well, some of his other films are pretty good. That doesn't necessarily surprise me because it's like, I can at least tell from this movie that, yeah, he's got talent. Yeah, he understands a lot of what goes into the process of filmmaking and the process of storytelling. It's just a matter of bringing that together in a different way, and with professional actors as opposed to actors who haven't, who don't do it professionally, it's going to make a big difference. And that's one of the things that I've noticed in talking to filmmakers just about their own work. And it's definitely something that you get an appreciation for if you're able to watch short films, which is like, there's so many places to watch short films now. And it's like, it's a shame that, like, you don't necessarily, it's a shame that Hollywood and, even the independent studios have sort of drowned out the ability to like, and exhibitors have sort of drowned out the idea of like having short films in movie theaters. It's like that would be so fantastic. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to see something like House on Oak Street playing at your neighborhood movie theater, but at the same time, it's like having being able to point people in the direction of like, this is out here, this is how you go look for it. It's like, that's one of the things that I love about watching short films, is the fact that it's like, it feels even more so than any other experience I have watching movies, as it's I feel like I'm learning about something that I wouldn't have necessarily had the opportunity to learn about before, seeing filmmakers I wouldn't have necessarily seen before, either because of the fact that their films don't get distributed except for online, or they're short filmmakers and they just haven't had that opportunity to make a feature yet. And so that's one of the things that's really excited me about watching short films over the years, and one of the things that I really appreciate about the medium.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. The like you said, it's short films are learning experiences. They're clay. You're starting to mold your own sculpture of who you are as an artist by each little class, so to speak. And each class is a film. You learn about your oversights. You learn about what you did right. You learn about what you did wrong. But, I couldn't agree more with you there. Like even Hollywood directors now, they direct commercials without credit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I heard, I believe it was Rob Zombie on one of like Kevin Smith's podcasts. Sorry to plug him on your podcast.
No, it's all right.
But he mentioned that he's directed a ton of commercials. Mm-hmm. All that is more practice for him. Granted, it's a paycheck. I'm sure it's more of a paycheck at this point than it is a learning experience. But I'm sure he's still learning. I'm sure he's still picking up things from just who knows? It might be a medication commercial. Mm-hmm. a new wonder miracle pill coming out. Who knows? You see that old lady riding a bike or something in the sunset. Who knew Rob Zombie is the one that did that? I'm not saying I know which ones he did, but
right.
And like I said, to begin with, everybody as an artists are always improving. If you're not improving, then why are you still trying to do what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
If you're not learning. And this kid is obviously Kyle Misak, and he uses the same crew of
mm-hmm.
people. His sound and his editors, they're the same people. So I'm wondering if he went to school with them. They're just not getting the credit because, directors are the lead singer of the band, so to speak. Not many people know what the bass player or the drummer names are, but you sure know who the lead singer is. And it's a shame sometimes, because there are really gifted editors out there. There are really gifted sound technicians out there that are great at what they do. Just what they do isn't being a rock star in people's eyes, like the public eyes. And I do enjoy short films a lot, and I have since, I would say, the mid-'90s, when I first discovered short films that weren't Three Stooges and Looney Tunes
mm-hmm.
and Disney, I was like, whoa, there's this whole world out there. I got a hold of a VHS tape. I don't know what it was, but it was from a festival of sorts. And it was called Short Film Showcase, I believe, or something similar, a title similar. And it had like 7 short films on this VHS tape, and I was like, wow, how can I get more? I liked maybe 2 out of the 7, maybe 3 out of them.
Yeah.
The majority of them I liked 4, and because there was a mix, it was a genre mix. There was like a comedy mixed with an animated one, mixed with a horror. Like I think there was 2 or 3 horror on there, and then like a drama.
Mm-hmm.
It was just. It's not good for mood and stuff, but it's what was in the festival. Well, anyways, I think especially we're living in the digital age. Blu-ray, physical copies of things, I don't think will ever die, because look at vinyl. It's coming back. People buy vinyl all the time.
Yeah.
My girlfriend just bought that we went to the Cody concert last week, Cody and Cambria concert. She just got a new vinyl last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think it's fantastic that these mediums they're getting new life as people are shining, the more pop culture is shining more away from the physical media, so to speak. And I think digital media is perfect home. If Netflix had a short films category, I'd be all over that.
Oh yeah.
Amazon Prime or you name it, Hulu, you absolutely name it. If they had independent short films, I would spend hours of my life that I can't get back watching and consuming because that's just who I am. And I think this has a good place. And speaking of playing at local theaters, I believe this did get a run for a weekend maybe, or maybe it might have been just one night only at the Three Oaks. There's an art house theater in Three Oaks called the Vickers.
Okay. I
believe that they played. It's a great theater. It's very classy. It's beautiful, upscale. There's a balcony with tables and chairs. It's absolutely stunning little place. I got to see Pan's Labyrinth there, and they had a short animated short film showcase where it was like a 5 or 6 person orchestra that was playing along with it. It was awesome. It's something you just can't experience anymore.
Yeah.
They don't even do that anymore. They did it for a few years or whatever, but I thought it was fantastic. It's a great little theater. I'm sorry I'm plugging all this stuff all over the podcast.
That's all right.
But yeah, if you're ever in Three Oaks, go check out a movie there. They always have something. All the independent films that you'll see at the Academy Awards, they'll have a run through there through the year. They almost always get them all.
Yeah.
And I don't get down there more to check more things out, but you do what you can, and you don't do what you can. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad they at least got to see it on the big screen, so to speak. Kids.
Oh yeah.
Their work, the effort, and it's more good than bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. It's just the stickler in me. I can't stop but be like, picking things out.
Well, and that's one of the things. It's like ultimately, it's like and it's like you've no doubt read my reviews long enough to where it's like, that ultimately I'm going to look more for the positive in a movie than I am a negative. And it's like, if I'm really negative on a film, it's like, there's a very specific reason for it. It's like, I don't feel like this film did enough. And it's like, I will try to find the positive in pretty much every movie I see. And it's like, it's much better for me and certainly for the people that I review, especially people who are working in independent films, who are working on making their own movies and who take the opportunity to, email me and say, hey, I've got this movie. Would you be interested in reviewing it? And it's like, I'm going to look for the positive more than I am going to try to find the negative. But at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm going to shy away from the negative if I feel like it needs to be said. And I know that's one of the things that I know for a fact that people are grateful for honest assessment. And it's like, just because of the fact that we're focusing on specific negatives, that doesn't necessarily mean we have had an overall negative effect. The film had no negative impact on us. It just means that this stood out for us. This was something that we felt was important to point out. And this is something that I feel like can be improved on. Sometimes it drags down the overall impact on movies. Sometimes it doesn't. For me, a lot of times it doesn't. Sometimes it can, but ultimately it's like, I know that if you're a filmmaker and you're looking for feedback, they are looking for any feedback, so long as it is honest. So long as you're honest about your assessment, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's just, that's how important feedback is to filmmakers. And it's like, if if you're honest about what you're doing and you're humble about how you're approaching your craft and how you look at your films, it's like you're going to be appreciative of whatever feedback you get. It doesn't matter so long as it's honest. And that's ultimately, we focus a lot on the negative about this film, but at the same time, it's like we are willing to say, it's like there is some positive about this film. This is something that really, there's something about this film that influenced us and impacted us. For you, a lot of it had to do with the fact that it's like it got the feeling of what it's like around Halloween time right, which you were absolutely right. And it's like any holiday is difficult to get in that respect, especially Halloween, which is sort of in between, and you have a very specific, even if you're not a huge Halloween lover like yourself, you still understand what that feels like. And it's like how everything around you, whether it's, the surroundings and what the weather's like at that point, you understand what that weather is like. And if you see something that gets that's going to have an impact on how you feel about a film. And and for me, one of the big things that really resonated with me was the music in this film. I felt like the music was, it wasn't a spectacular, great piece of film music, but was effective in what it was supposed to do. And that's the most important thing for film music.
Sometimes the most simplest things are the most effective.
Yeah.
But to go back to like how you spoke on how you critique things. When I used to do DVD, when I was a DVD critic for a couple of years, when I learned to critique things, I would find the negative, what I felt was wrong, and I would find the positive. And like you said, with the negative, I always say what they can improve on, why it was wrong, why I feel it was wrong, and it's more. I want them to take my words and be like, learn from it. Like you said, take it and learn from it. I know there's a lot of people, like a lot of teenagers who want to review movies as soon as they're out, like day one, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is out, so I got to go watch it, the early show, and then get home and make a review for YouTube. And they're like, sucks, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why did it suck?
Yeah.
It just sucks. Well, tell me why. So a lot of the people on the internet, I'm going to dog on them a little bit. You're not I'm not a real critic. I'm not going to say I'm a real critic. You're a real critic because you got a site and you do a very good job. But I know the rules. I have to, if I'm going to present something in a negative light, I'm going to have to explain myself why I felt it was negative. And that's what I tried to do here. Like saying the teams, they don't matter towards the story. Like saying like the Foley work, like no footsteps going up, but there's tons of footsteps coming down. You can learn from it. It was an oversight, I'm sure. So we move on. Learn, fix it on your next, or do a remastered like Lucas.
Yeah.
And put a tauntaun in the foreground. Don't do that. Disney will sue you. Cease and desist. Anyways, but even with the positive, I always like to hit it whenever I wrote a review. I always hit it with the negative first, and then I would do the positive last to soften the blow towards the end. Instead of be like, this is good because of that, but this is bad because of this and that and that. I don't want to feel like I'm attacking the artist who presented this product to me, just like the house on Oak Street. And it irritated me a little with the grandmothers and the aunts and uncles saying, oh, what a fantastic job. It was great. It reminded me of going to a high school, like a fifth grade end of school presentation by the students.
Yeah.
And they take 100 photos that they're never going to look at again.
Mm-hmm.
They might take 2 and they use them as like, I don't know, profile pictures on their Facebook or whatever. But, and they're just like, oh, it was such a great night. Can't believe it. They were fantastic. You see the kids? It's like, yeah, but you're coming from a weird standpoint. But if you critique it, then I feel like, because I actually posted on, after watching it the first time, my honest feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's above average, no budget filmmaking, and I was almost nearly attacked in that thread because the relatives of the kids felt like I was like putting down their babies.
Yeah.
So those people can't take criticism for sure. But criticism is true criticism leaves you with a new view on your product, and I hope that's what we've kind of done here, positive or negative, or even middle of the road. Like the kids being sleepy, they're rushing the dialogue. You can take that and slow it down the next time, or start a little earlier for the kids. Well, who was it that was it W.C. Fields that famously said, "Don't work with children or animals"?
Yeah.
Do you know that quote?
Yeah, I believe.
So
I think it's Hitch. No, I think Hitchcock had something similar. I think it was DeMille. Yeah. But
yeah,
I know.
I feel this was working with kids. Kind of like it's not that great of an experience.
Yeah.
It's interesting that his next project was only adults in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was coincidence or if like he was just kind of like, I did my thing with the kids and it wasn't that super.
Yeah.
Or maybe he had a time of his life and he can't wait to do another one. I don't know. We have to talk.
Well, the thing is, it's
it'd be
like
interesting to know his thought.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's interesting because there have been some filmmakers over the years who are absolutely fantastic with kids. There are some filmmakers who they just couldn't stand kids whatsoever, and it's like, yeah, I mean, you look at somebody with Spielberg, he directs like kids better than pretty much anybody. It's like, now has he probably had some miserable experiences? Maybe, but at the same time, it's like you wouldn't know it because he knows how to get the best out of them. But yeah, I mean, and the fact of the matter is, it's like each situation is different. It's like if you're dealing with, and then you look at somebody like Jake Lloyd and the Phantom Menace, and it's like they're just not. It's not a good performance, and it's like some of it has to do with the writing, some of it has to do with the directing, but also some of it has to do with the kid themselves who just. Right. They don't really work in that role. And
yeah, compared to say the kids of Super 8.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the kids of Super 8 were a little bit older than Jake Lloyd was, and
yeah, but not
but
much.
They were probably better. Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Stranger Things was probably a better comparison. I thought the kid who played Michael in Stranger Things is a fine actor. I hope he sticks with it, and because I think he's got a bright future as well ahead of him.
Yeah.
But Jake Lloyd he's got the acting skills of a pancake.
Yeah, and it didn't help that he was directed by somebody who is much more interested in the visual aspects of filmmaking than the performance in the intricacies of performance and acting. That definitely doesn't help either. But
get it on film so we can get the editing the CGI. Get it on film.
Well, I mean,
Bantam's here, man.
Oh, this was definitely a lot of fun. I want to thank Marv for joining us. This was really entertaining, and it's like it was interesting. I didn't necessarily expect to get into a discussion on the idea of critiquing films, but at the same point, it's like it's fascinating that's where it went. And I mean, I suppose for like short films and especially something like low budget films, and you and I both have that critical eye, and like you said, we both have been on both sides of filmmaking, both as a watcher and as somebody who's actually done it. So it's like it's natural to I guess it's probably natural to get into that vein of discussing films and the idea of what we look for when we're looking at films from a critical standpoint, and sort of how we look at critiquing films. So it was definitely an entertaining little excursion for this discussion on the House of Oak Street.
It organically morphed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely came from a place, based on where the discussion was coming from. So thank you very much. I love talking about.
Thanks for having me, Brian. But one last final note on this short film: go watch it. It's worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch. It's nothing to pass on. If you got 19 minutes, I think it's 18 and change, but if you got 19 minutes of your life and you're looking for something on YouTube to watch, why don't you do a little search on the House on Oak Street? Don't look up B&E on Halloween, because that's going to be my next project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it'll look for it in 10 years or something.
And like I said, the House of Oak Street, it is on YouTube, and I do have the link to the short film embedded in the link to from the review on Sonic Cinema. So we're gonna do a quick, thank you very much to Marv for for bringing the film to my attention and getting me to watch it. I'm really glad I did. It was an entertaining film. Both of us had our own personal critiques about the film, but overall, I'm very glad we not only was I given the chance to watch it, but also we had the opportunity to talk about it together.
Thank you for having me. It was fantastic. It made my night.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm definitely enjoying having a lot of different people on these podcasts, and I actually. I got back into. I went back into starting to watch Twin Peaks this week because the new season came out, and I'm talking to a friend of mine who's a big David Lynch fan. We're talking about doing a David Lynch sort of retrospective podcast as well. So it's like definitely having so many different people that I know and respect and enjoy talking films with. I'm definitely excited to have these opportunities to talk to people. So thank you very much for thank you for giving me the film and giving me the opportunity to talk to you, over the phone, which we haven't really had too many opportunities to do.
No, we haven't. But I would like to say this: I'm glad you're not doing a David Lynch retrospective with me, because I am not a fan of work at all.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. My friend who's doing the, he's actually doing he's a musician as well, and he's doing a concert inspired by David Lynch and doing a lot of music from David Lynch's film. So it's like that next week. So that's part of that also is going to go into all of that. So it's like I'm looking forward to that. And I have filmmaker about a month ago who I had discussion with on Scorsese, and had some different filmmakers I've talked to about their films, and just all of these different topics and people I'm bringing in for the topics. It's been really entertaining. So thank you for being a part of that.
Anytime, man. But now that you're talking about the Scorsese with someone and Lynch with someone else, and then it's a no-budget short film of me, am I like in the basement? Am I the guest you like go down to the basement to record with and be like, show me something you've watched, and then go up into the high society big filmmakers upstairs?
No, I wouldn't look at that at all. I just, it's one of the things that's been great about this is having all of these different ideas of like, oh, hey, we could have this discussion. We could have this discussion. And it's like, this is a very different discussion than those discussions. And it's like, all of them for me have value. And it's like, because of the fact that it's like, each conversation is different. And it's like, that's one of the things that's been so exciting about all of these is the fact that it's like, well, I'm not going to have the same conversation with you about this film as I'm going to have with somebody about Scorsese or David Lynch or their own work or all of that stuff, or with the same type of discussion I'll have with Ron about Star Wars, if that's what we do. And it's like, it's very exciting to have all of these. Yeah, it's eclectic, and I hope it's entertaining for people who decide to listen to this. And it's like, wow, he's doing some really, really entertaining things, talking about films and talking about just different aspects of filmmaking and different types of filmmaking.
Right. Well, let's get out of here.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So
I feel like we're trying to go to an outro, and I kept rambling on about being a basement dweller.
Oh, please, you're nothing of the sort.
I know, I'm just having a little fun.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much to Marv Dickey for helping out on this episode of the Sonic Cinema podcast.
Anytime.
Thank you very much for Marv for joining me tonight. This was definitely a lot of fun, and we have something very exciting down the pike for you next time. I'm definitely looking forward to sharing that with you guys and discussing it. But thank you very much, Marv, for joining me, and I'm looking forward to our next podcast together. And for now, thank you for joining us for the Sonic Cinema podcast. And this is Brian Scuttle. Have a good night.